Thanks very much, Nick. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back after the break. It's great to see such a nice full room. We have a wonderful group of panelists here that I will introduce in just a minute. But first, I wanted to talk about something you've heard a bit about over the course of the last couple of days, and that is the Chamber's recent release of a year's worth of work, and took the form of a report on Kentucky's workforce challenges. You should have a copy of this at your place. They were distributed during the break, and so we're going to talk a little bit about the report today, but we're also going to talk about some important issues that were raised in the course of the work over the past year related to employability, and that's why we have this great group of panelists here to help us to shed some light on what employers are challenged with in finding the right kind of folks for the jobs that they have available. I do want to mention how important it was to have a group of employer representatives helping guide this work over the past year. And I wanted to say a big thank you to them for the Chamber, and also personally, because their help was critical in our being able to complete this task. And some of them are with us here today. Our Chamber Workforce Group was made up of Howard Blackburn of Community Trust Bank in Pikeville, Ron Bunch, Bowling Green Area Chamber of Commerce, Jerry Isbell of Lexmark International, Kim Menke of Toyota, who you'll hear more from in a bit, Patrick Murphy of UPS in Louisville, Ron Sanders of People Plus in Madisonville and Central Kentucky, and Tiara Cavanaugh Turner of TKT Nectar Global Staffing here in Louisville. Also from the State Chamber, Dave Atkinson, the CEO, and Betsy Dexter, the former manager of Education and Workforce, were very active in the development of this process and in the report. Instead of giving you a recitation of everything that's in the report, we thought it might be more interesting to show you a video. So that's what we're going to open our session with, just to give you an overview of the content and recommendations in the report. So if you could play that video. I do want to thank Jacqueline Pitt of the Chamber staff for the development of this work. And so we'll watch that and then start our conversation.
In an international market, workforce has emerged as a key policy issue. Employers are struggling to find qualified workers, and job seekers continue having trouble finding openings.
I promise there really are images to go with the words.
This is your opportunity. Yeah.
As Kentucky seeks to compete in an international market, workforce has emerged as a key policy issue. Employers are struggling to find qualified workers, and job seekers continue having trouble finding openings that fit their qualifications. That is where the workforce training programs and other resources should come in. However, many in the state experience frustrations with the system and the outcomes it is producing.
I couldn't tell you myself exactly what is supposed to be the outcome expected out of a lot of the programs that we have today. I should know. That information should be readily available to me, just like what manufacturing is today should be available to kids and to parents. But right now, it's disconnected. It's not so clear. I've had a number of discussions recently about workforce development across the state and how the programs work versus how they were intended to work, and it's still disconnected.
I look at it from a business perspective, and the first meeting that I attended as a member of the Workforce Investment Board, I think my comment was, I think we need to blow up the entire system because it's impossible to understand. It's impossible to navigate and understand what do the acronyms mean and what program does what. So one of the things that we have tried to do in the past, and I think have to continue to try to do going forward, is simplify the whole system. It needs to be much more customer driven, much more driven by needs and demands than internally and system driven. That process, I think, has improved a great deal over the past few years, but it'll never be finished. It'll never be probably as good as we hope it can be. But I think ultimately that's it. We have to, if I was going to point to one thing, it is simplifying the system, making it much easier, and meeting the customer where the customer is.
A recent survey of Kentucky Chamber members reveals the extent of the workforce challenges from the perspective of employers. The results show less than 10% believe the overall workforce has good skills.
Many of our clients are struggling finding the people they need, especially in the manufacturing area and the high skill areas. And so having a skilled workforce is so important to Kentucky, and having our students be able to fill those roles are so important. We not only want to be competitive here in Kentucky and in the United States, but we've got to be competitive globally as well.
The new workforce report from the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce shows the need for big changes to the system that will require the work of both business and government to help the state move forward by expanding and maintaining a highly skilled, competitive workforce. After reviewing the system for several months, the Chamber identified a number of challenges: a lack of employer engagement, a serious skills gap, need for transparency in workforce programs, insufficient program coordination, inconsistent use of job credentials, increasing difficulty finding drug-free applicants, and a need for better soft skills among workers. As one of the largest employers in the state, Toyota is constantly seeking to utilize strong workforce programs. Toyota President Will James says one of the first steps should include better collaboration between employers and educators.
Well, one of the things that I don't think we've taken full advantage of across the state, honestly, is to get business and the educational community together to be able to specifically say what are those things that we need tomorrow's workers to be able to do. Because if we would do that, I think the education system can be tuned to it, and then we make sure that we've got a ready-made pipeline. The educational process right now just needs a little bit more adjustment or alignment to be able to facilitate that to happen.
Among the educational recommendations outlined in the report, the Chamber suggests the state develop and incorporate soft skills and work readiness certification into college and career readiness requirements for schools, increase coordination between the education and business communities to improve workforce preparation, and continue and expand support for early childhood education programs as a workforce development strategy.
I think it's critical that business kind of define the skills that they need, not just the technical skills, the academic skills, but the work-based skills like attendance, drug-free, a lot of the characteristics that business is looking for, problem solving, things like that. So we've got to have all three: academic, technical, and character type of skills in our graduates too. I think business needs to hear that this is not just another education reform, that this indeed is about economic competitiveness and workforce of the future.
Some of the other main recommendations found in the report include a top-to-bottom review of the state's workforce training and development system to improve alignment, organization, and system delivery, the development of a system to identify all funding sources of workforce programs, where the money is being spent, and what the results are, a greater role for employers in determining membership of local workforce boards that fund efforts at the community level, a joint public-private initiative to raise employer awareness of available workforce programs, and incorporating drug screenings into the application process for state workforce training programs. As the state's leading business advocacy organization, the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce has a strong interest in the quality of the state's workforce and hopes employers, education leaders, workforce officials, and others will join us in working toward a better future.
I know that businesses are ready to go to work on this problem. We all recognize that it's a mutual issue that we all need to roll up our sleeves and be a part of. I believe that the educational system wants the same outcome. So that's a big part of the ingredient right there, just getting us together in a forum to sit down and talk about what needs to happen.
So now you've had sort of a brief overview of what the report entails, and we hope you'll have an opportunity to look at it in more detail in the coming days. Today, as I mentioned, we have a great group of panelists here to talk about workforce-related issues, and I'd like to introduce them now. Starting on the far side, Amanda Huddleston is the Vice President for People Plus, Inc. People Plus is a family-owned, Kentucky-grown staffing and recruiting company with 7 offices across the Commonwealth. Amanda has 15 years' experience in recruiting drivers, light industrial, and administrative candidates for multiple businesses and industries throughout Western and Central Kentucky. Seated next to her is Kim Menke. He is the Manager of External Affairs and Government Affairs with Toyota Motor Engineering and Manufacturing North America. Kim works with local, state, and federal officials here in Kentucky and in several other Toyota manufacturing states on legislative and policy issues, including workforce development. Kim chairs the Kentucky Chamber's Competitiveness Council and also serves as chair of the Kentucky Fame Board that is charged by Governor Beshear to assist manufacturers and community colleges in duplicating the Advanced Manufacturing Technician Program in Kentucky. And we'll hear a little bit more about Kentucky Fame later in our panel. Susan Simmons is the chair of Kentucky Society for Human Resource Management, or SHRM, and the Executive Vice President and Human Resources Director for Central Bank of Lexington. She holds the designation as Senior Professional in Human Resources, as well as the new SHRM designation of SHRM Senior Certified Professional. So I would appreciate your joining me in welcoming our panelists. So getting down to the street level on these issues, I wanted to just talk with our panelists, have sort of a conversation about the things that they encounter, and of course, welcome questions from you all a bit later, but if you have a burning issue and you want to jump up to one of these microphones at any time, I hope you'll feel free to do so. So just to get us started, Susan, let's start with you. If there are characteristics that would make someone a strong candidate for you to hire, one or two, what might those be? What are you looking for?
Well, the video you just showed talked about the soft skills, but effective communication skills are very important, and that would include being able to carry on a conversation through the interview process, the verbal skills, the words that are used, the use of proper English. I think people are starting to use text language a little bit more. Even in emails, you're seeing texting language. Just being able to apply proper English in the business world is important. Good eye contact and body language, all of that goes into the effective communication skills. And then on top of that, I like to see some history of good work ethic. Even if they haven't had a job in the past, if they can show volunteerism, some charitable work, something that shows that they've gone above and beyond what they had to do to get to where they are today.
Amanda, does any of that differ from what you're looking for? Or?
No, we're very in line with that, where we're communicating. I mean, we're in the people business, so we're communicating with people daily, and it is very important for us as well to have that, for people to have the ability to communicate well through, and I'm seeing a lot of what you see as well with text language, and like, you need an E in there, I need you to add another letter here. So it's that piece is getting a little harder to find at times, but also, at least it's a teachable moment.
Well, and I hope you have your phone with you, because I'm going to send you the next question that way.
I don't have my phone.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I won't throw you that curve right now.
Thanks.
Kim, let's look at the other side of the equation. Is there anything that would immediately disqualify somebody from your point of view from hiring?
Well, one of the things that we look at is people's personal commitments. So, your commitment to safety for yourself and for the team that you're going to work around. And probably one of the very basic issues there, it goes to drug testing. If you can't pass a drug test, if you can't be drug-free at the job, how can you possibly be safe for yourself and those around you? And so that's just an automatic disqualifier.
I know during one of the members of our work group, Tara Turner, we were talking about this issue, and Kim was involved in that as well. She said it doesn't matter how much training you give an individual, if they cannot pass a drug test, it's all for nothing. So, and we're running into that more and more. You touched on this a bit already with your comments, initial comments, but we heard in the video, you see in the report, a whole lot of concern about soft skills. In fact, excuse me, they frequently bubble up as almost higher than the technical skills, because you can sometimes train people to do what you need on the technical front, but if they don't walk in the door with the capacity to learn and those other characteristics, then you really are up against it. Are you finding a lot of job applicants who don't have those soft skills, you think? Amanda, let's start with you this time, since you cover the waterfront in terms of different professional areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you kind of read through the list of those soft skills, I immediately thought back to the book, All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. But that also correlates with the report that just came out and talks about with early childhood education and how important that is with the soft skills. And I think that I see a multitude of different types of candidates. I have people that come in their pajamas for an interview. People that still happens, still happens, and and the idea that is okay, which it's not. So it still is surprising to me today how many people are lacking in some of those areas and lacking being able to make eye contact, being able to, I'm a big proponent of how you shake my hand, and that confidence that you can exude there, and so many people that are very weak in that or don't realize the importance of those small things that make a great first impression.
Those general interview skills just overall are so critical, because you said if you can't pass a drug test, then I can't use you. Well, if you can't get through an interview, or if you show up for an interview in less than what would be the appearance that we would expect them to be at work, they're not going to do any better than they should at the interview, would be my expectation. So that appearance is very important when they arriving on time for the interview. And I like the handshake portion of it also. But I've had applicants actually come in for an interview and think that they were interviewing for a different position. They don't know anything of the company, and they just don't seem prepared for the interview itself.
Gives a whole new meaning to Dress Down Friday, doesn't it, I guess?
They are ready. They're ready for Dress Down.
They're ready for Dress Down every day, huh? Well, has this been around for a while? I mean, or are we seeing, I know that some of us in this room have worked on workforce-related issues for a while. You've all been in the business for a while. Do you think this kind of thing is getting worse, or has it been with us and we're just now focusing in on it? Or, Kim, I'll start with you on that one.
Well, from a manufacturing perspective, there hasn't been a big push for manufacturing because, it's always historically been sought as a dark, dirty, and dangerous. And so you typically didn't want your children to go to that. So there hasn't been a focus on coming to work and going into manufacturing, which is very standardized. And so, we are seeing a generational shift there. Because folks weren't going into manufacturing. Advanced manufacturing today is not your father or your grandfather's manufacturing. It's clean, it's safe, and it's very meaningful work that you can build a career at. It's not just punching a clock. So I think there is a generational difference that has been around for a long time.
Amanda, you're nodding, you think, let's talk about that generational thing, because we are, well, it's the text communication, as you mentioned, and different forms, different ways of relating to and with people. I mean, you think it's a generational issue when it comes to the workforce, or?
I think there's a little bit of that. I mean, I also think I'm right on the border of Generation Y and millennials, I guess, and and I'll still look at some millennials like, oh, come on, you're so close, like don't do that. But but then there's a great abundance of millennials that do really well and have those skills and are doing the things they need to do. And so it is hard. A part of it, I'll just go back to good old parenting, with some individuals that come into our office, and what I see is that I think, oh, yeah, there's a lot that could have been done just on the parenting side, probably, that wasn't done. So I think it is a little bit of that generational difference, but millennials and beyond are going to have a lot of good there too. So sure. I know there's a lot that they get picked on.
Right. Well, we're not trying to.
Yeah. We're not picking on. I think it is just
right.
what it is. We've talked about, you've all probably heard about the soccer trophy generation, and it's very difficult when you just show up and you get a trophy and you're brought up that way, and then you enter the workforce and you expect it to be the same, that if I come into work and I do my job, I'll be promoted, I'll get raises. Well, you need to apply yourself a little bit more than that, and that's a difficult thing to overcome, so you can't really blame anyone. It's just right. The way it has become.
Well, I've also heard reference to job applicants looking at a potential employer saying, and what are you going to do for me? What can you do for me? Susan, have you had that experience?
Right. I've had someone, just as an example, they've worked for maybe 3 months, and this was in my prior position, and they asked to talk to me about their future career. And again, they'd been there 3 months, and I asked what their expectations were, and I'm in the banking industry, and they thought they should be a branch manager within 6 months. And this was someone with no experience in banking, very little retail experience, and they were not even on the retail side. They were in a support position, and they truly thought that within 6 months they should have been in a branch manager role. Those expectations are just unrealistic, and I think they're just used to getting things given to them without having to really work hard for it. So it is what can you do for me? Not that I'm going to put any commitment into myself. You need to give it to me.
Well, Kim, and looking at it from the employer side of things, so what are employers doing if they can't find workers that meet what their standards are or meet what they would like to have? I mean, is there some alteration underway out there from the employer side of things?
Well, I think a lot of companies are trying to be multi-generational. With folks living longer, folks are waiting longer to retire. Just at Toyota, we've got multi-generations now. We've been there 28 years, and so we've got a whole spectrum of diversity when it comes to age in our workforce. And so, you're trying to make things as comfortable as possible, as liberal as possible in terms of work environments and things like that. But the bottom line, it comes down to when we need to build cars, the line starts up at one time, and you need to be there because the last thing our customer wants is not to have that airbag installed into their car. And so, you got to be there. And so there's that fine line of there are standards. You give where you can to be more flexible and to be more open to new ideas. It's one of the things that we're built on is, there's always a better way to do something. And if you collaborate and if you have a very diverse group or team that you're collaborating with, you get lots of perspectives. And so, we're doing that. The bottom line, though, there's a lot of folks that just aren't out there. And so, you end up stealing from each other. And that's not the answer either.
Right. Okay, let's see if we have any questions from the audience. we would be happy to entertain anything, or if you want to share stories of your own experiences in hiring, or if you want to take issue with anything that we're talking about. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Nath. I'm with the Governor's School for the Arts out of the Kentucky Center, and we're a high school arts-based program that serves 9 art forms. And students who have this soft skills set that you were talking about. And so I'm so excited to hear that the recommendation is to measure these soft skills. And we just think from an actor's perspective, they have to research a character. In that research of character, they learn how to be compassionate. They have to communicate that to upwards of 1,500 people in an audience. They have the confidence to do that. They study vocally to have the projection and the communication skills. They know how to share a scene and overcome obstacles. They've got creative problem-solving abilities. They know how to work as a team, and they have to be on time because the curtain goes up at 8, and you have to be there, right? So we can measure these skills within our art form, but learning how, so many of our students that go through GSA, we don't require them to study, to continue study in the arts. Many of them do. Many of them want to go into business. And so how do we, one, I'm wondering how and who is being put together to build the evaluation and assessment of the soft skills for college and career readiness? And then how do we better communicate this to different industries? Because we struggle with that, to help people understand that these skill sets you build within an arts discipline are exactly what you're looking for. So 2 questions there, I guess.
Kim, you want to address
Sure.
that one?
Maybe I'll speak to that in a couple different ways. You know, one, there's a lot of focus on STEM in education. And, you know, we've seen this growing trend now of STEAM, which adds the arts to that because of just what you said, because it brings so much to the table to get folks to understand what the skill sets are and how important they are and how you can apply them. One of the things when folks come in, you know, to apply, we can see folks that fit into 2 categories. One, in the education system, that they've not been exposed to any of those types of programs. Programs like Project Lead the Way, that is a very project-focused learning model where folks have to work together, students have to work together in teams. They have to actually solve problems, and they do it as a team. And so they have to communicate with each other, and then they have to present their project and do that in front of a panel, not just of their peer students, but you know, folks from the business community or from the school administration and those kinds of things. So I think those types of programs help us incorporate a way to get to soft skill development in the K through 12 system. And I think that can start very, very early in that process, and it should.
And there's also Gene Wilhoit, who we heard from yesterday at UK. His folks are working to develop essentially a K-12 curriculum on soft skill development. And so I know that Dave Atkinson has talked to him about that, and we're hopeful that that's the kind of thing that we will see move into the K-12 instructional system before too long, because it is, you know, we go back to Amanda's point about it being a parental responsibility, and I don't think anyone would argue with that. I think that what we're finding is that wherever the responsibility lies, the job isn't getting done. And so one of the recommendations in the report is to incorporate the soft skills into the definition of college and career ready that we're now working with in Kentucky schools. Other questions? It's a great question. Yeah, wow.
Okay, it's a challenge, but are there any places in the state that you're finding you're getting reliable people? Where do you get the most reliable people from? KCTCS, the community college system, or from the ads or the workforce investment boards, or somebody else, a magic supplier? Where's the best supply of people that have the kind of skills that you need for jobs today?
Amanda, I know you're in several parts of the state. Do you want to?
Yeah, magic supplier, that would be ours.
PeopleSoft?
Yeah, exactly. People Plus is the magic supplier. Probably, we work a lot with the colleges in our local communities, so we recruit a lot with those institutions, and then a lot from, just general kind of job fairs, networking with people. A lot of the placements that I make is through the networking that I've done, because I think that's a lot of the individuals that you find for positions are usually not just always replying to an advertisement or, looking for a job that they don't know they're looking for a job yet. But those, it's kind of hard to say. We reach out to people. We're doing a lot with social media right now, and friends of friends, or tagging them and helping connect. It's all about connecting people and finding them that way. So I would say those are probably some of our top ways that we're finding people right now.
Susan, Kim, Kim, you have a comment?
You go ahead.
One of the other areas that we've looked at is actually changing the culture of how we're doing education. So about 10 years ago, we started seeing this decline in soft skills and not getting what we needed. And so we began working with the Bluegrass Community and Technical College. It's been a long-term partner of Toyota since day one in Kentucky. And so, we were able to do the research and determine, here's some things that are lacking. And so we began a process with our advanced manufacturing technician program of truly finding what is a globally competitive training program that students could go through and be successful with. So in addition to the technical skills that the community colleges can teach and have been teaching successfully for a long time, we added 2 more components to that. And it's part of the training program that's reinforced every day that they're either at school or in a work-study program at their sponsoring company. And those other 2 things were manufacturing culture, or manufacturing core exercises, where we talk about the things like safety focus and problem solving and machine reliability and lean systems and work organization, those kind of things that we typically got at home. When I was growing up, that was, how you did things. The other category falls into the personal behaviors or the soft skills area. And that's where we're really reinforcing on a daily basis the things like attendance and problem solving and diligence and initiative, and really setting the expectations and then holding the students accountable. We're also setting the expectations for the college system. We're setting the expectations for the companies that are involved in this program, including Toyota, and we're holding everybody accountable. The students hold us accountable just like we hold them accountable. So by being able to put that in practice, we've been able to really see a spike in these great soft skills that when these folks finish this AMT program in 18 months, they're on the market and they can pretty much name their salary because everybody wants them.
And I'll put a little plug in for best places to work, I suppose. We have a large number of our applicants that come from employee references, and when you instill a good work environment, a good work ethic within your own employee base, they want to bring in good employees also. And through the best places to work process, that helps with that. It makes applicants want to seek you out as an employer, but also the employees that currently work for you want to maintain that level of being a best place to work, and they usually will bring in some pretty good candidates. So a large percentage of our hires come from employee referrals.
Very good. Ron?
Diane, I want to thank you and the committee and the Chamber's work on this. I think it's fantastic. I personally believe this is the #1 challenge for Kentucky and also the #1 opportunity. So thank you for that and for putting it on the table so we can talk about it at the Business Summit. My question is more about leadership, transformation, and accountability. And just pulling some stuff from a report and trying to simplify this, here's my question. How can we run a $900 million annual operation with $47 million of that coming from the federal government to convene all these partners and have $900 million work better together? How can we run that since 1998, annually since 1998, to create a demand-driven workforce system
and arrive where we are today, where the statement in the report says less than 10% believe the overall workforce has good skills. So how have we had a $900 million effort since 15 plus years, and it could go back further than that, and we arrive today? And Hugh Hayden's comments in the video relate to some reports that came out directed by the governor, I believe, at the time in 2009, 2010, to blow up the system, to transform the system. And so, being kind of the root cause guy, if we tried it then, what do we need to do now to actually transform the system and have substantial improvement from 10% to 15%, 20%, 90% to get a passing grade in producing talent with the public money that we're investing in the system?
Kim, do you want that?
Sure.
Or do you want me to hold it?
Why not?
I wish I had that answer.
I will say one thing, if I may.
Okay, sure.
Since I've had the privilege of listening, getting input from employers and others, the report makes a strong point that it is critical that employers be involved on the front end of this work. And through the years, employers have walked away from local workforce investment boards and other opportunities because they did not feel their voices were either being heard or their recommendations were not being acted upon. And some of this is detailed in the report. But it's pretty much our group concluded that it's got to be a strong partnership from the outset to ensure accountability and results. Should it have happened before now? Of course, but we are where we are now going forward. So that's, Kim, I'll now.
Sure.
Since you're living it.
So, it's the perfect storm. As Ron said, we've been living this for quite a while. Everybody in their own silos, we talk at each other. We don't really talk to each other and collaborate on how do we make things better. And that's kind of been the way things are. I mean, it's the definition of insanity. And it now is the prime time for us to make a clean break from this. With the new authorization of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, it truly sets the stage for us to blow it up and start over again, because it gives us the opportunity to truly define who the customer is, and business is the customer in this workforce development activity. And then, the secondary customer is the citizen that's looking for job opportunities to unleash their fullest potential. And so being able to bring everybody together to be able to coordinate the effort, all these dollars from all the different buckets that are out there to truly focus on one activity, and that's to be able to provide the skill sets for the customer who needs them and provide that secondary customer with all the resources they need to excel to their fullest potential. I think the steps that have been taken now to reconstitute the Workforce Investment Board on the state level, we're going through the process now of reestablishing on the local level. Shame on us if we don't take this opportunity to really make a difference and really hold everybody accountable, including ourselves, and bring them to the table. And so, that's the challenge, and that's where we are. And business has got to be not only, working with the post-secondary, the community colleges and the four-year colleges. We've got to be in the school systems, the K through 12 systems, talking and making sure folks make the connection of this is what learning is and this is how you're going to apply it in the future.
Thanks. You have a question?
I saw in the brochure about the work-ready communities, and I'm on a team that's just starting kind of the letter of intent for our rural community. And I was curious if any of you guys know about that, and really what difference does being certified work-ready, what difference have you seen it make in a rural community? And do you think it really makes a difference? And if so, what?
It may not be
I'm not
familiar
familiar with that.
Yeah.
I have some familiarity with it in preparing the report, and apparently a gentleman at the back of the room has some familiarity with it, so I can't really see who it is, but thank you for volunteering. And please let us know who you are.
Well, my name's Tim Gibbs, and I'm the the president and CEO of the Ashland Alliance
Oh, okay,
in Northeast
Jim.
Kentucky.
Okay, thank you.
We're in the process of a work-ready certification for both Boyd and Greenup County. The benefit, I mean, there's multiple benefits, but I'm going to drill down to one that's a secondary one that we really felt like it was most important. I started off the process because I wanted the certification because we wanted to use it in our marketing and recruitment to show our employers, existing and potential new, that we had a quality workforce. But it goes much deeper than that. When you go through the process of bringing together the groups that you have to and benchmarking where you are and establishing where you're going from where you are, special things happen. You find the famous recipe, so to speak, of doing the things that's been talked about on this panel. Because you're getting together your leading employers and your smaller employers together with your educators and your workforce development and your elected officials and your economic development. And it lets you find your way. And it gets you having the conversation that Ron was talking about that's most important. So it's an opportunity of discovery and creating the path forward that's going to make the difference for your community. And then the end, you also have your certification. But that's not the glory part. The glory part is the conversation. So it does do a lot of good things, and I highly encourage every community here that hasn't to take a look at it. And the next thing is we need to be a certified region, and then we need to be a certified state. So this is how we go forward.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And accountability is really the key to all
Yes,
that.
it really is. Bob King.
Good morning, and thank you for the report and your presentation. I'm interested in your thoughts on what employers can do to develop internships that allow high school age and collegiate age students to actually learn those practical skills that are part and parcel of being effective in the workplace, and provides to employers an opportunity to see whether or not any of these young people might be solid candidates for employment, and what we can do to expand those opportunities if you think they're worthwhile.
Susan, is that something that SHRM is would be engaged in, or?
It isn't something we've really discussed at the SHRM level that I recall. I mean, within Central Bank, we have internships, and I believe that's really up to the employers, and hopefully the employers in this room would be open to do that, to offer as many internships as possible. We have quite a few at Central Bank, and it does give those students the opportunity to see what it's really like to work in an office environment, to prepare for that. And anything, I think Kim mentioned too, just employer involvement, anything that we can do in this room as employers to get involved in these schools at an early age, even with interviewing skills, job preparedness, anything that we can do, we need to get out there and commit ourselves to make it happen.
We're running a little short of time. I would like to get to unless Kim, I don't want to cut you off if you have something you want to add.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Bill Lear at the back.
I'll try to make this quick. One of my favorite Harry Truman quotes is, "The only thing new in the world is the history you don't know." And at the executive committee meeting yesterday, I said I could have written this report in 1994. In fact, I did help write it. I had the good fortune to chair a group called Investing in People. It was put together in Kentucky and in 6 other states. We were selected to participate because of CARA and hope for additional expansion of educational opportunities. We pulled together the workforce development cabinet, which then had the technical schools, the community colleges, labor, AFL-CIO was represented, management, a blue ribbon group. We worked for a year. We had national consultants that worked with us, and we developed a plan to force coordination, eliminate the gaps and overlaps, involve employers. We prepared a beautiful plan. I had legislation to put it into effect. Everybody was on board, and then we got in the session. Here was the hook, and I would suggest it to the legislators in the room. We borrowed a line from one of the famous Haldeman or Ehrlichman lines. We just changed it a little bit. We said, when you've got them by the purse strings, their hearts and minds will follow. It was a simple mechanism. On a regional basis, all of these folks had to work together, and I mean purse strings for community colleges and all the technical schools. They had to work together. They had to present a plan for coordinated development of all of the skills training and implementation of it, or they didn't get their money. it's the best way to get them to work together. I still remember the day early in the session when Bill Houston, who was head of the Workforce Development Cabinet, and Ben Carr, who was head of all the community colleges, showed up in my office in the legislature, and they kind of humped and said, we decided we're off the team. I think the reality of having funding threatened finally got them off. Well, without those were the two gorillas. We couldn't do it. But the point remains the same, and I would encourage the folks in the legislature and otherwise to look at holding the money over the heads of all of these providers to get them to work together. Thanks.
Thank you. And sir, did you have a question? Are you fine? All right, well, thank you. I think we could probably go on quite a bit longer with this great conversation. I really appreciate that. We do want to end on an upbeat note, which is the Kentucky Fame program. Kim, I know you've been instrumental in that. If you could give us a 1-minute description of it, and then we'll show a short video and go to lunch.
Okay, great. Well, Kentucky Fame is an organization that Governor Beshear pulled together just this past January, taking the advanced manufacturing technician model that we had developed in central Kentucky with Bluegrass Community and Technical College. It's a collaborative with lots of companies, and the charge of that board, which is made up of member companies in the various regions, the 10 regions of the state. It's also made up of a member from KCTCS, a member from Economic Development, and a member from CAM. And the intent behind that was for those organizations to be able to garner the support of education in KCTCS's perspective, state government for the cabinet, and so on. Basically what's happened now, we have FAME chapters that are in 6 areas of the state. We're now duplicating this program. We have over 200 companies that are part of this program now. We have over 50 graduates of this program that are actually working in manufacturing now. We have another 60 students that are in the program today, and we have just over 200 that will be enrolling this fall in this program. 18-month program, work and learn. You make money while you're going to school in a simulated work environment where you actually reinforce technical skills, manufacturing culture, and personal behaviors every single day, every single minute.
Thank you. So with that, we'll close with the video on Kentucky Fame. I want to thank our panelists for being with us, and I believe we will then go to lunch, but I'm sure Bill Goodman will give us good advice on that. So if we could watch our last video.
It's very difficult to find skilled workers right now.
We need a higher educated workforce just to do the entry-level jobs, not just the advanced level jobs.
One of the top priorities for everyone is workforce development. Talking to our suppliers, they face the exact same problems we face as far as skilled workforce availability, getting students out of high schools interested in manufacturing.
Day in and day out, we can repetitively make product. In the end, though, if we don't have the ability to resolve technical issues, it's a struggle for us.
There's more and more automation going into the things that we do. You got to have folks that can work on this equipment. You got to have people that can program this equipment, and those are all, I think, premium skill sets, which is nice because you get that coverage with this AMT program.
The dream for Kentucky Fame is that manufacturing really does become the #1 industry here in Kentucky, and Kentucky is the #1 place for manufacturing in the country. And to be able to do that, you have to have a trained workforce. This type of program shows manufacturers that maybe want to relocate here or manufacturers who want to expand here that we can provide that trained workforce for them and have them working from day one.
So the student, they're required to work a minimum of 20 hours a week. We bring them in, and our goal is not just to bring them in and have them push a broom around the shop. We want them to learn real life skills. So we try to put them in the real world experience and have them learn because we need them to learn. We're not here just to provide them a job. We want them to learn to help us for the future.
First student, she hit the floor running.
now you weren't just teaching her everything, you were building on a foundation that she already had.
They have the basic skills, so they're trainable.
Most of the guys that are the great maintenance guys in my work are the guys that came through this program.
Kentucky Fame brings together manufacturers, the education community, and students to be able to promote manufacturing and the jobs and careers that are there for manufacturing.
Very excited to be able to be picked for Kentucky Fame because we had to go through such an extensive process.
It was an honor. I applied, and I think that my college degree and my military experience is what really pulled me through.
You get more than what you get in the classroom experience. You get the actual on-the-floor experience with guys that have been doing it for years.
We have a lot of people that are only a year into the program, and they're already doing things that master mechanics are doing.
These kids come in right away and contribute, and they're like a sponge. They absorb the information so fast.
They want to be here. They're trying to find their career path. So all those things that they can be involved with here will help them grow and essentially help us grow.
As a small business owner, it provides a solution for me to hire cost-efficient employees that are being trained the way I need them to be trained.
I think what it does for the Commonwealth is it creates the needed skills to take us into the next generation of manufacturing and allow us to compete in a global marketplace.
If it does what we believe it'll do, it'll sustain our present manufacturing base where they're not having to compete with each other. But also, it'll help bring new industry in because they'll look at Kentucky and say, hey, they've got it together.
All of us are committed to the partnership and continuing the relationship. With the leadership of Kentucky Association of Manufacturers, the state legislature, our manufacturers across the state, and KCTCS, this will be a success.